This is the demo for the damage HUD on Project Stripe, and so we'll be looking into the Battle Engine HUD class. Since I haven't covered the basic heads-up display before, I'll also go into that a little bit. So Unreal provides a HUD object that I'm using here. I've extended it into my Battle Engine HUD, but if we take a look, it is based off of a HUD. So in the constructor here, I first load up my font object since I will be rendering text. So I've loaded in Tahoma for the basic debug text and Latin wide for the damage numbers. Since draw HUD is called every frame, but I didn't want to put my logic in here, I created the draw UI part 1 and draw UI part 2 functions to actually perform the rendering of the HUD. So draw UI part 1 does the basic menu display, which shows the characters and the enemies in a menu style format. So I initialize with some basic values for the coordinates of the menu, since it's going to be a fixed location. However, since I'm going to be referencing from the bottom of the screen, and I don't know what the screen size will be for every product, I have to use a calculation to determine it, since I can get the full screen size and I need to subtract based on the assumed size of my UI. So I go through every item owned by the player controller, and then I go over every controlled character. So the first time we go into this loop, it will get the player controller that is owned by the user, and then it will get all the units. The next iteration, since I'm also using a player controller for the AI controller, it will get the opponent results as well. So so this X pause plus 300 and Y pause plus 50, this helps with the offset for every time it moves to the next player controllers to prevent the menus from overlapping. This Y pause minus 5 is kind of a hack to cancel out what happens here. So later on I'll try to figure out how to implement that properly. Then I take a look to see how many characters I have. If I have 0 characters, there's no point in rendering anything, so I skip the drawing altogether. However, if there is more than 1 character, then I start to calculate the sizes that the font would render into, and I draw my rectangle for the background. Then after that, I start drawing the name and values for each unit. So that's it for the part 1 of the draw UI, which does the menu, and then I have draw UI part 2, which does the damage values. So I iterate over the player controller again. It's probably not that efficient. I should probably roll it up into one so I can make it a single for loop instead of 2. And then I get all my controlled characters from that controller. And then I iterate over every controlled character, and I do a check. So first I render the name of the character and the health value. So this means that every character will have text displayed, and it will be displayed on the char pause, which is based off of the current location of the object, so the text should be hovering right over the character. Then I also take a look at the damage counter, and if the damage counter is greater than 0, we'll draw a damage value. So in the character class, I've set it so that every time the character takes damage, it increments the damage counter. However, if the damage counter does not get updated in 2.5 units of time, it'll get reset to 0. So if damage happens, the number should appear since it'll be greater than 0. But after 2.5 units of time, it'll get reset to 0, which should cause it to disappear. So let's take a look at it in the demo. So we can see the names up here for the units and their health values, and a replica of it on the HUD down here with the rectangles. So now if I click my units, click an enemy, and launch an attack, as the fireball hits, it should produce a number. The number will stay for a brief period, and if the number is still present while the attack lands, it should just increment. So this should make it reasonably easy to know how much damage has been applied. I've given the enemy just a static movement for now, just to confirm that the UI will follow the enemy. Otherwise, if it actually doesn't follow the enemy and I implement more features only to find out that it doesn't follow, it could be a pain in the butt to debug. I've also randomized the damage values slightly, so it'll be a random value between 2 and 3 when the fireball hits. So you can just see there, it just did 3 points of damage. And the UI also updates, so when the units are killed, that they completely disappear, so they're no longer used in the calculations.